a new terrorist threat to Israel. That's what experts say would happen if a Palestinian state is established.
Well, a growing number of countries are already recognizing a Palestinian state. It's expected to be the key issue at the United Nations General Assembly this week. CBN's Julie Stahl has the story.
The UK led the way on Sunday, recognizing a Palestinian state, followed by Canada, Australia, and Portugal.
In the face of the growing horror in the Middle East, we are acting to keep alive the possibility of peace and a two-state solution. That means a safe and secure Israel alongside a viable Palestinian state.
Unilateral recognition of a Palestinian state and the situation in Gaza are expected to dominate this week's UN General Assembly. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says there will not be a Palestinian state in the West Bank.
At the UN, I will present the truth. This is Israel's truth, but it is the objective truth in our righteous struggle against the forces of evil and our vision for real peace, peace from strength.
Netanyahu said the recognition delivers one message.
I have a clear message to those leaders who recognize the Palestinian state after the terrible massacre of October 7th. You are giving a huge price to terrorism, and I have another message for you. It will not happen. There will be no Palestinian state west of the Jordan.
Despite the argument that the decision would sideline Hamas and bring peace, Hamas took credit for the recognition, saying it's because of their October 7th invasion and massacre of Israelis. Palestinians in Ramallah welcomed the decision and made their ultimate goal clear.
We also hope to see a complete Palestinian state from the sea to the river.
Israeli legal expert Eugene Kontorovich says supporters can say what they want, but a Palestinian state doesn't exist.
They have complete independence, autonomy. Israel's not controlling their lives. So what would a state give them that they don't have now? The ability to buy weapons on the international market and the ability to open their borders and bring in jihadis from around the world. So imagine October 7th, except this time, instead of machine guns and gliders, they have airplanes and artillery and millions of people who've come to join them on jihad from around the world.
Therefore, he says, Israel cannot allow the establishment of a Palestinian state. In Israel, there is talk of extending Israeli sovereignty over biblical Judea and Samaria, also known as the West Bank, thereby preventing the establishment of a Palestinian state. Netanyahu says he'll deliver Israel's official response after he meets with President Trump following his UN speech. Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Thanks so much, Julie. Joining us now is Israel's ambassador to the United Nations, Danny Danon. Mr. Ambassador, welcome back to the 700 Club. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you for having me again, Andrew.
What's your response to the countries who are now recognizing a Palestinian state?
It's shameful. They're rewarding terrorism. We know it's empty declarations. Nothing good will not come from those declarations. And they are detached from reality. You know, we still have 48 hostages in captivity. Hamas is still in control of parts of Gaza. And instead of supporting Israel, the only force who is actually fighting evil on the ground, fighting Hamas, they condemn Israel and are trying to reward terrorism. Luckily for us, it's meaningless. Nothing will happen from those declarations. But it shows the direction that some leaders, they don't have the patience or the courage to take bold decisions and to realize that we have to defeat evil. You cannot leave Hamas intact in Gaza and hope for something good to happen.
So this is such a big week. How do you plan to counter the momentum now for a Palestinian state this week at the UN General Assembly?
Well, I pretend to present the fact and the truth to my colleagues, telling them exactly how it is. The hostages are still there. And, and I think, sometimes those leaders, they care about domestic politics. Look at President Macron. He has so many problems in France, so it's much easier for him to come to the UN and try to lead some actions against Israel. But it's not going to support the Palestinians. It's not going to support the Israelis. The only way, and we proved it in the past, to move forward is through direct negotiations, not through the hordes of the United Nations.
What are the chances a Palestinian state could become a full member of the UN?
Well, it's not happening. For that to happen, you need the support of the Security Council. And I think also let's analyze it for a minute. When you say a Palestinian state, what exactly do you mean? Hamas in Gaza, the Palestinian Authority in Judea and Samaria, which is a very weak, corrupt regime. So, it's an idea. But on the ground, what we see today, we see radical forces taking over. It's becoming chaotic. And I think it will take for a while until we will see a genuine Palestinian leadership who is condemning terrorism and actually willing to speak about peace with Israel.
This was alluded to in Julie's piece. Critics claim a Palestinian state would be a reward, so to speak, for terrorism. I presume that's your view as well.
Absolutely. Julie is absolutely right. Look at the response of Hamas yesterday when France and the UK made the announcement. They praised it. They actually called it the fruits of October 7th. So they make the linkage between the atrocities of October 7th to what's happening this week at the United Nations. And it shows that those countries, they have to recalculate what they are doing. If Hamas is praising you, you have a problem.
If a Palestinian state is created, what are the chances, do you think, the next terrorist attack would be even worse than what we saw October 7th?
Well, first, I don't think it will happen. We will not let it happen because we saw what happened on October 7th. Just imagine that Hamas would have their own state, with their own military. It will be a threat to Israel and to the region. And I think for now we have to be focused on bringing the hostages, dismantling Hamas capabilities, and then we can speak about reconstruction of Gaza, speaking about the future. But now we are still in a war, and we have to finish the job. We have to eliminate Hamas completely.
We understand Israel's considering annexing parts of the West Bank, Judea and Samaria, to prevent the creation of a Palestinian state. Is that likely? And how would other Middle East countries react to that?
Well, first, if I may, I don't think we can annex something that belongs to us. This land was promised to us in the Bible. But, I think the decision of applying sovereignty will be discussed in the government. There are other ideas, how to counter those one-sided attacks against Israel. And Prime Minister Netanyahu said it clearly. I will see him on Friday when he will arrive here to the UN. But after he will meet with President Trump next Monday, he will come back to Israel, and the government will sit to discuss which measures we have to take.
So you commented on this annexation, but regarding the Trump administration who opposes a Palestinian state, how would they react to annexing parts of the West Bank?
Well, we will have to discuss it with them. I think many in the administration understand that, those biblical lands belong to the Jewish people. By the way, you know that, and your audience knows that most of the land is vacant in Judea and Samaria. You don't have Jewish communities or no Palestinian communities. So I think the future should allow Jews to live wherever they want in the land of Israel.
Can you give a response to, Israel being accused of genocide in Gaza? What's your response to that?
Well, that's a blood libel. When I hear it at the UN, when you look at what we did in the last 2 years, the fact that it took us 2 years because we have to take care of the population. So, if somebody is committing a genocide, it doesn't take 2 years. We lost so many soldiers because we act with responsibility. We try to minimize civilian casualties. But for some at the UN, they don't care about the facts. They spread those lies, calling for genocide, which is a lie. In order to prove a genocide, you have to speak about intention. And no one can blame Israel that we have intention to harm civilians. On the contrary, we do everything we can to minimize civilian casualties. And Hamas is doing the opposite. They're putting them on the front lines.
Mr. Ambassador, we know it's a very, very busy week for you, and we appreciate very much your time with us this morning. Thanks so much.